Good morning. This is Chantel Gray again, talking to you about Roman architecture and art. The Romans made some pretty big developments in the areas of both art and architecture, and a lot of those developments inform what we do today. This is an example from Pompeii. Pompeii was quite nicely preserved because of Vesuvius's eruption. Everything was covered with ash, and so a lot of things were kept quite nicely preserved. This is a mural that was done in early Rome, and you can see that it's flat, but they're working on some trompe l'oeil, trying to get some depth going. They liked this sort of panel setup where you have multiple scenes, and you can see that even in this mural there's some architectural depiction, and we'll see some things like it in actual architecture in just a moment. These were primarily either mosaics. In this case, it was a fresco where they actually apply the paint into the plaster. Again, here we see Pompeii. Bright colors. A lot of times with Greek and Roman, we tend to think white, and that was not the case. We know for sure that the Romans really liked bright colors. It seems that the Greeks liked a lot of bright colors as well. Here's another mural, sort of trompe l'oeil panel, and they also really liked mosaic floors. And this again is in Pompeii. Here is a villa in Pompeii. This villa setup was pretty standard, with an open courtyard in the middle and a colonnade that surrounded it. And then sometimes there would be a shop at the front, and the family would live in the back. It was very, very open, and part of it was because, remember, this is a very warm climate, and so you wanted to have that indoor-outdoor living as much as possible. This is a picture from the Getty Museum in Malibu, California. It sounds like I'm going to do a plug for them now, but maybe I am. If you get a chance to see the Getty, I highly recommend it. When John Paul Getty formed his museum, he wanted it recreated as an accurate Roman villa, complete with Roman antiquities, the actual artwork from the period. He wanted the construction done exactly as it was done in ancient Rome, using a lot of the same techniques and a lot of the same materials. He had many of them imported from Rome. The plants are all ones that would be growing in Rome. The one exception is that the statues in the Getty are on gimbals, so that when there is an earthquake, they don't fall over and get damaged. But you can see here that this nice open peristyle courtyard with the columns around the outside, the house on one end, but big open area throughout. This is also from the Getty, but they're good, accurate reproductions of the period. You see this mosaic fountain that had sort of a grotto feeling to it, bright colors, picking up that temple facade from the Greeks with the tympanum and pediment at the top. And yeah, very, very bright and colorful. Here is also from the Getty, but this is a mural style that was very standard at this time. It is a mural, but it's showing the columns and the walls as they would, as they would ideally be, I suppose. Sort of a trompe-l'oeil effect, and this is the beginning of trompe-l'oeil, which is fool the eye. You can see the painted shadows to help give dimension, and the shadows around the windows to make it look like there's depth. This coffered ceiling is also an innovation of the Romans, and used quite frequently, and we'll see it a lot when we get to the Middle Ages. Another Getty image showing the trompe-l'oeil again throughout. Bright, like I said, bright colors, and the marble floor. Also very colorful. One of the interesting things, or I think is interesting, is that the Romans perfected the ability to dye marble. You can actually dye the stone itself. And so they used brightly colored marble throughout. Also, you'll see here the Corinthian columns. The Romans loved Corinthian columns. They're very ornate. They're very extravagant. And so their Corinthian columns sometimes get pretty big and gilded and fascinating. Here's a picture of the Roman Forum, or the ruins from the Forum. You can see, picking up that sort of Greek style architecture, with working on trying to get columns taller and more extravagant. Here is the Arch of Titus. The Romans perfected the arch as an architectural form. It is a structural marvel, I think, that they realized that the arch takes the weight and spreads it out, and so you can actually support a lot of weight with arches. Here's some Roman temples, very much along the same style as the Greeks. Roman temples, however, were not open all the way around. They had a solid facade, or a solid building that usually just had the columns inset, and then it had an open porchway. This is a style that's going to get picked up for banks in the Federalist period. It's going to get picked up in the Neoclassical period. It will get adapted for houses. If you think of Southern antebellum houses, they're built on this same sort of idea. They also took the temple idea and they said, why does it have to be a rectangle? We want to make it round. And so that was kind of a new innovation from the Romans. Again, you can see the Corinthian columns, and very tall. Another arch, the Arch of Constantine. A lot of times arches were triumphal arches built to commemorate an important event, so that when you rode through them, you would see the information about that event. The Pantheon, built in 80 with some renovations in 110 and 118 AD. They took the Greek sort of facade with the pediment, and then they added on to it. They realized that a dome is really just a series of arches connected. And so they created a dome, which is pretty fascinating for, as early as 118 AD. They also created this out of concrete. The Romans made concrete. They made cement, opus cementium, and they really did some pretty innovative things. The Pantheon, if you notice, looks a lot like the Jefferson Memorial. That's because the Jefferson Memorial was just a duplication of the Pantheon. The Pantheon was a place that was to be dedicated to the various Roman gods. Again, you can see the dyed marble panels, little mini temples within. Each one of these was designed to house a statue of a god. and this large, ornate, round temple with these coffered ceilings within the dome so that you could get more structure with less weight. Pretty cool architectural marvel, as were the aqueducts. The aqueducts were done using a series of arches, and the aqueducts were a way of bringing water to the city and taking used water out. So it was our first sewage system. Pretty impressive stuff that they could bring, and there a lot of places had indoor plumbing essentially in Rome. They loved their baths. They loved being able to use water and bathe, and it was quite a marvel. The aqueducts were everywhere throughout Rome, and yeah. The Colosseum, again, another pretty amazing architectural marvel. Our football Colosseums today are strongly based on the Colosseum. A large entertainment area. They had thought through like how people are going to enter and exit and how to get a lot of people in and out of this building. Again, using arches to help make it architecturally sound and structural. You can see here, I think this is kind of interesting in the Colosseum, that they have Doric columns on the first level, Ionic columns on the second level, and Corinthian columns on the third. Another view of the Colosseum as it is today. This shows the Colosseum with the floor open. It had it would have a solid floor over, but this also shows the basement of the Colosseum, which had lots of hallways, lots of areas for storage, and places for people and animals, etc., to wait before making their grand entrance. And the voms, entrances that went from underneath and through the audience. Vom is short for vomitoria, because it's an area where you can leave if you have eaten way too much. And you need to take care of that. Their statues. They were into very realistic statues. They didn't want to idealize. They wanted to depict accurately what people looked like. And so that meant every wrinkle, every wart, everything. This is a statue of Caligula. A lot of times you would have, portraiture was huge in the Roman period. You would have a hallway of statues or herms lining the hallway with your family, with your ancestors, so that you could see them. So here's Nero. You can see, complete with some bags and moles and things like that. Hadrian. Another statue. A lot of the statues were busts. They did some that were full figure, but a lot of the ones that you see lining the hallways would just be busts of individuals. Vespasian. Again, you can see this is not an idealized view of this man. It's what he probably looked like. You could probably recognize him from this statue. Sabina. We don't have as many female statues as we do males, but there's a few. Here's another one. I don't know who she is. But again, it would be lining the hallways. Here's Constantine. Large, lifelike statues. And then another mural for you from the House of Venus. And I think with that, I am just about out of time. Yeah, I hope this was helpful, and have a good day.